In my junior year of high school, the school bully, a guy named Liam, handed me a love letter. I later found out it was just to make his ex-girlfriend, Chloe, who was considered the most beautiful girl in school, jealous. At the time, I genuinely believed his feelings for me were real. I was so happy and hopeful that I immediately started trying my best to help him with his studies, hoping we would both get into the same college. Years later, at a school reunion, after a few drinks, he turned to Chloe with red eyes and blurted out, "You were mad at me back then. You told me to give it to her, so I did." Later in life, there was a fire at the mall where we both worked. He didn't even look my way. He just grabbed Chloe and ran. Now, having the chance to live my life over, seeing that letter again with all my classmates teasing me, I calmly took it and placed it on Chloe's desk, saying, "Isn't this for you, Chloe? Why would he joke around with me?" The evening after the rain had stopped was hot and stuffy. Outside the window, the orange-red clouds created a hazy backdrop. Class hadn't started yet, and the hallway was filled with the usual noisy chatter. I sat at my desk pretending to read, but my hands were clenched tightly in my lap. It felt like a bizarre dream, yet I could still vividly recall the suffocating feeling of being trapped in that fire. Just like the first time around, Liam's friend stood at the classroom door shouting, "Who's Maya from your class? Someone asked me to give her something." He was holding a love letter, a small bunch of baby's breath flowers, and a cup of milk tea. Such simple, seemingly sincere tokens of affection. If I hadn't been dragged into this whole mess before, I probably would have just smiled and wished them well. My deskmate, a girl named Chloe, kept sketching over her math problems. She was undeniably pretty, even when she looked annoyed. It was no wonder so many people at school called her the Belle. The noise level in the classroom continued to rise. Finally, just like before, she turned to me, looking irritated, and said, "Maya, they're calling your name. Go see what they want." Meeting her teasing gaze, I didn't feel the shyness or embarrassment I had felt before. This time, it was pure anger. They had almost gotten together on their own, but their petty arguments had led them to involve me. I had foolishly believed the confession was genuine. In reality, I was just a pawn in their game. If it had ended with tonight's little performance, I might not have disliked them so much. But what happened next was Liam continuing to play along, pretending to be interested in me just to make Chloe jealous. After that initial confession, Liam would come to my desk every day. On hot afternoons when the power went out, he would fan me and say things like, "Chloe, don't I even have the right to fan you? The wind wants to go to you." If I happened to skip dinner, he would bring food to the classroom for me. I would shyly try to refuse, saying, "I won't agree to be with you." He'd reply with something like, "Chloe, agreeing to be with me and eating on time are two different things. If you don't eat, I'll just sit here." He would even bring math problems over to my desk during class, pretending to need my help. He seemed so earnest, saying, "Chloe, even though there's a big gap between us now, I'll work hard to get into the same school as you. You'll say yes eventually." For some reason, at that age, it was so easy to be moved and so incredibly foolish. I actually believed that someone liked me enough to change for me. I spent the last year of high school diligently helping him with his grades, genuinely thinking we would end up together. All my shyness, my worries, and the occasional moments of joy I felt, he knew about them all, but he just watched me fall for him, using me to make another girl feel possessive. He needed me to confirm that Chloe cared about him, while she needed me to prove that he liked her enough to use me. A complete fool, just to make her mad. Their emotional tug-of-war completely trampled over my feelings. Thinking about all of this, I snapped at Chloe. "I never had a nickname like Xing Xing. My name is Maya." Chloe had friends who gave each other nicknames. At that age, girls often liked cute, similar-sounding names. Back then, with everyone teasing and the two of them pretending, I hadn't caught on immediately. My voice wasn't particularly loud, but it was enough for everyone around us to hear. Suddenly, all attention shifted to Chloe. "Chloe, go get your love letter. Why use your deskmate as a shield?" some classmates mocked. Chloe, now visibly furious, threw her math problems down on her desk. "Well, it's not me. Who would like someone like him?" Just then, Liam walked into the classroom holding a basketball and he heard her. His face looked even worse than it had the first time around. He put the ball down, picked up the letter, and walked over to me, saying, "Maya, do you want to be with me?" The class erupted in cheers. This time, it felt different from the last time. Before, his friend had just tossed the letter onto my desk. For the next few days, Chloe completely ignored him, which seemed to prompt him to genuinely pursue me, or at least pretend to. So the situation wasn't quite as publicly embarrassing. Nobody outside of his close friends, and the two of them knew that the letter was originally intended for Chloe. The letter itself started without a name, just two little smiling star faces. I had thought it was his way of being intimate with me, never realizing that I was never the Xing Xing he had mentioned. "No," I said calmly, looking directly into his bright eyes. "It's okay, I'll keep trying," he replied, unfazed and seemingly determined. Chloe, witnessing this exchange, burst into tears, and her tears landed on her math problems, staining the paper. Just then, our homeroom teacher, Miss Anna, entered the classroom. Seeing the noisy room and the flowers on my desk, she tapped on the desk and asked, "What's going on here?" The room fell silent immediately. The homeroom teacher wasn't supposed to arrive for another half hour. Why was she early this time? Because I had brought her here. Around 2 o'clock that afternoon, I had purposely gone to ask her a difficult math question when she was busy in the teacher's office. She had promised me during our evening study session that she would come to the classroom early to help me with the problem. I had timed it perfectly to make sure she would walk right into this mess. I wanted to expose their charade and make them lose face. In my previous life, Liam and I had gotten together after the college entrance exam, but during our senior year, someone reported us for having an early relationship. The report was sent directly to the principal's office. To make an example of us, we were forced to read a self-reflection in front of the entire school on a Monday morning. That was the most humiliating moment of my life. And it wasn't just the embarrassment. My mom found out about it too. She slapped me hard across the face, calling me shameless. My mom had always emphasized the importance of not falling in love early, ever since my freshman year. She always said that studying was the only real chance for families like ours to improve our lives. I didn't know how to respond to her anger and disappointment. That incident led to constant tension at home and at school during my final year. And ultimately, I didn't perform well in the college entrance exams. Liam, however, performed exceptionally well, thanks in large part to the one-on-one tutoring I had given him for over a year. We did end up at the same college. When we received our acceptance letters, our homeroom teacher just looked at me with disappointment and asked, "Was it worth it?" I still vividly remember Liam's single mumbled sorry when he saw the red mark on my face from my mother's slap. But was that slap the only thing he should have been sorry for? After the college entrance exam, he had countless opportunities to clear things up during our university years. Wasn't my youth worth anything? Didn't I deserve someone who truly liked me for who I was? I kept wondering who had reported us. Even the other classmates were on edge, trying to figure it out. Since it wasn't an all-girls school, anyone could have been reported for such things. Some students even planned to sneak into the principal's office to compare the handwriting on the report with everyone else's. Liam stopped them then, saying, "Let it be. Let's just focus on the college entrance exams." During that period, he approached me even more frequently. His mood was unusually good, which I naively took as a positive sign on his part. Later, when we received our acceptance letters, I saw some students cleaning the principal's office. By some twist of fate, I went to help and found the report letter crumpled up in a corner. I recognized the handwriting immediately. It was the same as Chloe's. I was completely baffled. I had thought we got along well. Why would she do something like that? What did she gain by reporting me and making me so uncomfortable and humiliated? I picked the letter up from the trash and showed it to Liam, who just told me, "Maybe she had a grudge against you, but it's been so long, there's no point in bringing it up now." I didn't say anything. He just pinched my cheek and said, "I didn't know our Chloe was so petty." Petty? Since that incident, my mom had brought it up almost every day. I had lived under that constant pressure and judgment daily, but to him, it was just a trivial matter. But people do have a way of deceiving themselves. I had convinced myself that he just felt it was too long ago to matter. But thinking back when he saw the report letter, what was he really thinking? Was he recalling our public humiliation on the platform? Or was he worried about Chloe being found out and getting into trouble? Just like how he kept treating everyone to drinks back then, it wasn't to comfort me, but because he finally saw his long admired person noticing him. And I was so incredibly naive. I didn't even consider it that way. After all, who would joke about their own feelings and the feelings of others in such a hurtful way? But looking back, they had left a lot of clues. After the reporting incident, Liam often bought milk tea for our group of friends, including my deskmate Chloe. But she usually threw hers straight into the trash. I had just assumed she didn't like Liam and never thought more about it. When it came time to reassign seats in the classroom, I had privately told Chloe that I wanted to sit with someone else. I thought we would finally stop being deskmates, but she acted like nothing had happened and sat with me again. Ironically, I even joked with my friends. Looks like my deskmate doesn't hate me, but Liam. I even told this to Liam, advising him not to bully other classmates. Thinking back now, he must have been thrilled, right? I was inadvertently proving to him how much his crush cared about him yet again. The more I think about it, the more disgusted I feel. What had I done to deserve running into these two nasty pieces of work and getting caught in their twisted relationship? All right, they like to play games, huh? This time, let's see who ends up getting played. The homeroom teacher asked who the vase of baby's breath was for. Chloe lifted her head, her eyes red and watery, and pointed directly at me, softly saying, "It's for Maya." Unable to hold back any longer, I deliberately raised my voice. "Are you done with your little act? You know very well who it's for." My words clearly infuriated Liam. He glared at me coldly and said, "Ha! No more acting, huh? Let's see if he dares to come find me after this." To try and save face for all three of us, the homeroom teacher took us to her office. She sat down in her chair and looked at Liam, saying, "Speak up. What exactly is going on here?" Chloe started crying even harder. Her family was known to be very strict, and she would never dare to let them find out about any early relationships. But she knew my family was the same, and yet she still wrote that report. Watching me being humiliated on the platform, watching my mom rush over to school, worried sick. Standing in the office, Chloe kept her head down, tears hitting the floor in large drops. She was nervously picking at her fingernails while I coldly observed everything, feeling like an outsider just watching a poorly acted drama unfold. My detached attitude seemed to enrage Liam even more because he had always been so confident, always so quick to win over girls with his decent looks. He shot me a defiant look and said to the teacher, "I like Maya. It's got nothing to do with her." Hearing this, Chloe finally breathed a visible sigh of relief. Seriously, these two could be so incredibly disgusting. Like people would actually be moved by their pathetic little love story or something. To protect you, I'll just drag an unrelated person into this whole mess. Now you see how much I like you, right? I couldn't help but laugh out loud at the absurdity of it all. Liam glared at me again. I just rolled my eyes at him. I said directly to him, "Are you even moved by your own performance? Seriously, who you like doesn't matter to me at all, but for a guy, at least have the guts to admit what you've done. Can you even swear it was for me? Can you even spell my name right, you illiterate?" "Maya, no personal attacks," the homeroom teacher interjected. The teacher almost laughed but quickly managed to hold it in. There was absolutely no way I was going to listen to her. I had lived through this life and the last one, and I was certainly not going to get screwed over by these two idiots again. Might as well just end myself right now, I thought sarcastically. I pretended to be extremely angry, even managing to shed a few strategically placed, misunderstood tears. "Who did I attack personally, teacher? I'm just trying to get my education. Why should I take the fall for someone else's drama? If someone gave a love letter, it's not something you just give randomly." There are security cameras all over the school. They would easily show who was close to whom. My family is very strict. I would gladly let my mom come here and check the cameras. I haven't had any interactions with this student at all lately. At the mention of calling parents, Chloe visibly panicked. She burst into tears and blurted out, "Teacher, it was for me, but I swear I haven't been in a relationship. I was just scared. What a complete joke. Now Liam was completely dumbfounded. He had even tried to frame me out of his supposed heroism, but being forced to take the blame himself? That just made him seem even worse than before. Liam froze there, looking at Chloe, then clenched his fists and said coldly to the teacher, "Yes, it was me. I've been bothering Chloe. Please don't blame her." Seeing his pathetic attempt at acting, I rolled my eyes again. What was that look? He turned and glared at me. "Teacher, he's being mean to me," I said, looking as pitiful as I possibly could at the teacher. Liam's stare grew even more fierce. Ignoring him, I continued. "So Liam was just throwing me under the bus to protect his crush on Chloe?" Liam said nothing, still glaring intensely. "Teacher, we're just here to study. What if I hadn't cleared my name today?" I looked at the teacher, my eyes red with feigned injustice. The teacher put a comforting arm around my shoulder and looked at Liam and Chloe. "No matter what's going on between the two of you, don't drag innocent students into it. You owe Maya an apology." Having lived through 2 lives, I finally got a reluctant apology from both of them. Whatever happened next was none of my concern. I left the office and went back to class. The next day, both of their parents were called to school. We didn't get all the details of how it was handled, but Chloe was no longer my seatmate. Her eyes were noticeably swollen from crying too much over the past few days. The funniest part was our homeroom teacher subtly bringing this whole issue up during our next class meeting. It's normal to have feelings for someone at this age, but girls, let me tell you, when you're looking for a boyfriend after graduation, what's most important is his character. Think about it. If he can so easily drag an innocent person down, do you really think he'll treat you well in the future? And boys, if the girl you like can casually accuse others of things they didn't do, does she really deserve your affection? Despite being a math teacher, his literary skills were surprisingly impressive. After his indirect criticism, Chloe nearly cried a river, and Liam glared at me countless times throughout the rest of the day. My eyes actually started to hurt from all the eye rolling I was doing. I never directly discussed the incident with my other classmates, but since it had all blown up so dramatically that night, everyone pretty much knew what had happened. So, during breaks, Liam and Chloe became the laughingstock of our class. "Liam, I'm not watching the next scripted drama if you're not even the writer anymore. Wouldn't you be moved by your own dramatic performance? And what's with all the crying, Chloe? You were the one who framed someone else, weren't you? Do you really think your love is that pure and innocent?" Not just crying, she can also point her boyfriend to her desk mate like that. How terrifying. Chloe couldn't take the teasing anymore and ran out of the classroom in tears. Liam then stormed over to my desk, threw my workbook down and said, "Haven't you had enough?" He leaned over, staring down at me menacingly. I slapped him hard across the face, and before he could even react, I stabbed my pen into the back of his hand. "Can't you two just pick on someone else? Do I really owe you both something?" I met his angry eyes with a cold stare. "Fine, just you wait." He spat out those words and then quickly left the classroom. A few kind classmates, worried that he might try to retaliate, volunteered to walk me home. I was a day student, and my mom had rented a small apartment near the school to take better care of me. We finished evening classes quite late, around 9:30 in the evening, so everyone was understandably worried for me after Liam's threat. I just laughed it off, saying, "We're all classmates. Liam wouldn't go that far." But honestly, I was secretly hoping he would. I also wanted to see just how far he was willing to go. A few days later, Liam's usual sidekick, a guy named Joe, approached me and told me that I should apologize to Chloe to settle everything. Otherwise, I would have to face the consequences. I purposely provoked him, asking, "What consequences? I'm really looking forward to it." Honestly, having lived through this whole ordeal once before, I had been holding onto a deep-seated grudge. Not just for being deceived, but for all the emotions, time, and energy I had wasted on him all those years. I had fantasized about getting revenge almost daily. Finally, one Friday night, I was walking home as usual. As I reached the entrance to a narrow alleyway, Liam's group of guys suddenly blocked my path. Chloe stood right beside him, carefully holding his arm, and said, "Stop it, Liam. I don't want you to get hurt because of me." Liam lightly patted her hand and said, "It's okay, I can handle this." He then walked closer to me, cornering me against the wall, and said, "Chloe, a young girl like you doesn't need to play so many games, right? I said we were all in this together as classmates. Just apologize to Liam, and this whole matter will be over." I looked up at him, seeing his thuggish demeanor on full display. Reflecting on all the years I had known him, I only felt a wave of disgust wash over me. I had given him way too much credit when I was younger. He had always been this self-important. I silently mouthed the word asshole directly at him. Under the dim night sky, he indeed became furious. His fist was raised high, swinging directly toward me. I closed my eyes, bracing myself for the impact, secretly hoping he wouldn't hold back. But it didn't go as I expected. His fist didn't land on me, but instead slammed into the wall right beside my head. He seemed momentarily stunned, with a somewhat hurt look in his eyes. By that time, the unmistakable sound of police sirens was already blaring in the distance. His friends immediately scattered, with some of them getting caught right on the spot. Liam looked at the approaching police cars and then back at me, and with a surprised look, he said, "You did this on purpose." I completely ignored him and yelled out, "Officer, help me." Since he hadn't actually harmed me in the end and was still babbling about pursuing me, and there were no security cameras in that particular alleyway, his harassment still got him and his friends arrested and taken to the police station for a few days of lectures. When the school found out about the incident, Liam was immediately put on probation. Back at school, I had been somewhat expecting him to come after me again because I really wanted to find a way to send him to jail for good. But he suddenly seemed to chicken out. He kept calling me a manipulative girl, saying he couldn't afford to mess with me anymore. He even started spreading rumors that I had set a trap to frame him. And with all the drama-filled TV shows that were popular at the time, people even started joking that I could probably survive until the final episode of any palace intrigue. To that, I just retorted, yeah, he's stupid enough to attack a classmate at night. And when someone calls the cops, he blames them. What? Just because he's crazy, we should all go easy on him? So dumb, yet he thinks he's good at framing people. Ridiculous. Not long after that, things finally calmed down with them. Boring, wasn't it? I had actually been ready for their next move, but now, in this new life, I wasn't just focused on this petty drama. My mom had been diligently saving my New Year's money in an account under my name, and I had the debit card. Over the years, it had accumulated to a significant amount, around $30,000. The password had been set by me, and thanks to my memories from my past life, I had acquired quite a bit of knowledge about stock trading. In just half a semester, I had managed to double the money several times over. I didn't hide this from my mom. Since my dad had passed away early, it had been tough for her to support our family on her own. I told her that I had initially been practicing with simulated trades, and then started betting small amounts when I realized I was right more often than not. I made up various plausible stories to put her mind at ease about the risks involved. With this extra money, life became significantly easier for both my mom and me. Soon after, the World Cup was happening. Remembering the outcomes from my previous life, I placed larger bets and, within just a month, earned a level of wealth beyond my wildest dreams from my past life. Suddenly, it felt like the primary purpose of being reborn was simply to earn as much money as possible. As for why I remembered most of the scores so clearly, I had to thank Liam's constant chatter about the games in my ear from our previous life. Previously, I had been in the top 3 in my class, but only around the top 20 in the entire grade level. With enough money now, I enrolled in expensive private tutoring classes. By the time of the senior year mock exams, I had risen to the top 5 in the entire grade. Our school had always been very strict about preventing early romantic relationships, partly because our area wasn't very well developed economically, and many students came from modest backgrounds. Education was generally considered the best path to a better future for most of us. I didn't hold any lasting ill will towards my other classmates. In fact, I had received a lot of help and support from them over the years, so I used a portion of my newfound wealth to help those less fortunate in my class. I also funded free tutoring sessions through one of our teachers. When people asked why I had suddenly become so generous, I simply blamed it on my mom, saying she had won an $800,000 lottery, bought a new house with some of the winnings, and believed in sharing her good fortune with others. I didn't want to brag too much, though. but within my means, I was genuinely willing to help those around me. Chloe and Liam, however, didn't join the extra tutoring sessions, likely due to their pride. More so, it was probably due to their ongoing emotional drama. Without my direct involvement this time, they still hadn't actually gotten together. They always seemed to need other people's reactions to validate their relationship. While the rest of us were busy diligently preparing for the crucial college entrance exams, they were still constantly questioning each other's feelings and intentions. To make Liam jealous, Chloe even started briefly dating the school bully. Liam, in a dramatic attempt to win her back, got into a fight, ended up getting injured, and even fell into a coma for a short period. So, almost every day, Chloe could be found crying in the classroom. When other girls tried to comfort her, she would say things like, "I didn't mean for this to happen. I thought he didn't like me anymore. I never expected him to go that far, but we're doomed anyway. My parents will never agree to us being together." They kept going on and on like that, acting as if they wouldn't even make it to graduation. Maybe it's a bit twisted, but it seemed like the final stretch of our senior year was actually more bearable for me because of their constant drama. Perhaps they didn't feel the same way. Surprisingly, Liam actually returned to school after he was discharged from the hospital. And then, he started inexplicably targeting me again. Damn it. Instead of continuing his sad love story with Chloe, he started pestering me every single day. He would stare at me intensely during class, making me feel incredibly uncomfortable. When the bell rang to signal the end of a class, he would deliberately walk towards me, step by slow step. My close friends and I were always on high alert, ready for anything. I even started carrying a small fruit knife in my bag, wondering if it would count as self-defense if things escalated. Yet, when he finally reached my desk, he would suddenly say something like, "Chloe, when are you going to tutor me? We've wasted enough time already." Tutoring? I had a strange hunch then. This guy had probably gotten a knock on the head during his fight and somehow remembered his past life or something equally bizarre. But what did any of this have to do with me? The more I thought about it, the dumber the whole situation sounded. In our current situation, did he really think I would ever agree to tutor him? I just gave him a cold, hard look and said, "Who are you?" He actually looked genuinely upset by my response. "Chloe, you've changed." "Need me to call a doctor for you, Liam?" I retorted sarcastically. "Chloe, I knew you still cared about me. I'm really fine now," he insisted. After he was released from the hospital, he had become even more delusional and frankly disgusting. Mental illness needs treatment too, you know. Haven't you been told that before? I kept mocking him relentlessly. He paused for a moment, then with a hurt look on his face, he said, "Sorry, I didn't mean to bother you." This whole pity act was absolutely ridiculous. Why didn't he just go to his destined love, Chloe, and ask her for help? Now he was just showing up here to embarrass himself even further. What a complete joke. Were the standards for actors really this low these days? I had thought I would finally be done with him soon, with only 2 months and 10 days left before the all-important college entrance exams. But these last 2 months and 10 days felt like an eternity. I was constantly on edge, and every single day felt like it would never end. Liam was acting as if his brain had completely broken. Every single day, he would do these pathetic, self-pitying things. Every morning when I arrived at class, there would be breakfast waiting for me on my desk that he had bought. He would stand there awkwardly, cautiously looking at me and say things like, "I remember you used to like these. If you don't anymore, I can buy you something else." Liam, are you completely out of your mind? Stop playing these stupid games with me right now, or I'm going to have to send you to either a mental hospital or the police station. I threatened him directly. "Chloe, why have you become so heartless?" His eyes even started to get a bit red and watery. This whole red eye problem of his hadn't seemed to get fixed even after 2 lifetimes. I really hoped he would eventually be able to work and save up enough money to get it properly treated in this life, but my threats seemed to have absolutely no effect on him whatsoever. He brought me lunch again the very next day. "Liam, why don't you just go work as a food delivery person for a living? You clearly love delivering food to people. It seems like a perfect career path for you. Is it just me you want to constantly pester?" "Chloe, I just want to make sure you're eating well," he replied. completely ignoring my sarcasm. This whole situation was starting to drive me absolutely crazy. Seeing that I wasn't going to respond, he added, "Chloe, I have the right to choose who I want to be good to." This guy was completely nuts. I had finally given up on trying to reason with him. I decided to just contact our class teacher and explain the situation. "Sorry, dear teacher, I'll repay you for your trouble with some good stock tips after graduation," I thought to myself. I complained to the teacher that Liam was constantly harassing me. The teacher tried to talk to him a few times, but he simply wouldn't change his ways. In the end, the school had no choice but to have him study from home for the remainder of the semester. Anyway, these last couple of months were mainly for review and taking practice exams. Plus, he was still on probation from the earlier incident. When he was finally leaving the school to study from home, he came to see me one last time. Looking genuinely upset, he asked, "Chloe, do you really hate me that much?" I knew exactly what he was talking about, but I pretended not to have any idea. "What are you even talking about? If you keep this up, I'm going to have to call the police on you." "Chloe, you really don't remember. You wanted me in jail last time, didn't you? How could you be so cruel?" "Are you kidding me right now? Who even lets you call me that? Did I tell you to corner me in a dark alley at night? Are you good at anything other than getting dumber by the day?" "Oh, wait, also getting more annoying by the day," I retorted, not holding back my true feelings at all. Though I still couldn't quite understand why he seemed to remember our past life, but didn't go find Chloe to try and rekindle things with her. Instead, choosing to constantly bother me. But I certainly wasn't going to pass up the opportunity to sting him with my words whenever I could. "No, no, no, that's not what I meant. I was—" He seemed completely flustered, unsure of how to properly explain himself. "Just stop bothering me, it's really disgusting," I said firmly. With that, I turned around and went back into the classroom. Liam didn't linger any longer, he just quietly left the school. I honestly hadn't expected Chloe to come looking for me next. "Is this all your plan? Well, you've won. He's starting to like you now." Did these two idiots really think I was that easy to bully? Did they think I was stupid just because I hadn't completely exploded on them yet? Is this your IQ level? When it comes to redefining stupidity, you definitely win. Why don't you just go to a drama school already and stop rehearsing your lines on me daily? Is delusional disorder contagious? Are you both terminally ill? How did I even win? Win what exactly? Is there absolutely nothing else in your head besides romance? I wasn't even finished with my rant, but she just turned and ran off crying again. I swear I was going to get both of them into a mental hospital sooner or later. Finally, the tough days were over. The college entrance exams were finally here. I felt both nervous and excited, just like everyone else, even though I had already gone through this in my past life. But I had been a failure back then. This time, I was determined to reclaim my glory. I was in a pretty good mood. Until Liam showed up again, looking as self-pitying as usual. "Chloe, I wish you a bright future," he said. He had actually given up on taking the exams just to wait for me at the school gate to say that. I wasn't moved by his gesture at all. I'm so incredibly talented. A bright future is pretty much a given, right? But what about you? Have you found a good school to repeat your senior year? If not, maybe you should try a performing arts preparatory class. After all, that seems to be your and Chloe's shared passion. As your classmate, I genuinely wish you success. But please, just keep your dramatic performances to yourselves, all right? Chloe, do we really have to be like this? Are we even that close? "We're not," I said flatly. He muttered a few more disheartened words and then finally walked away. I grabbed my pen case and my exam ticket and headed into the exam hall. I was absolutely determined to live an exciting and fulfilling life this time around. After the exams were finally over, our class had one last gathering. Liam even showed up to that. While I was laughing and chatting with my other classmates, he sat quietly nearby, just watching me with that same annoying look on his face. I simply ignored him. But there was some really good news. Since I had gotten a second chance at life and had managed to make quite a bit of money, those classmates of ours who had previously had to drop out of school due to financial difficulties were now able to finish high school. I had even told them that there was someone willing to generously sponsor their college education. claiming it was my mom's old friend who was now a successful business owner. All made up, of course. The kind sponsor was none other than yours truly. The main thing was that I could help someone out as long as it didn't cause any trouble for me. After dinner, we all went to a karaoke bar to sing. Honestly, I'm usually quite stingy with my money, and Liam had insisted on tagging along. Fine, but he couldn't blame me for what happened next. When it was my turn to sing, I purposely chose a Korean song that Liam had taught me before. It was the theme song from the movie My Sassy Girl called I Believe. Liam had practiced that song countless times in our previous life. He had wanted to sing it to finally confess his true feelings to Chloe. At our graduation party in our previous life, he had actually sung this song. He had sung it for her, but had lied and said it was for me. I had been so incredibly moved by it back then that I had listened to it countless times afterward, and he had still pretended not to know the song, even calmly teaching it to me himself. I held the microphone and started singing along to the familiar melody. He was absolutely stunned and didn't even seem to notice when his drink glass slipped from his hand and crashed to the floor. After finishing the song, I made a quick excuse about having something I needed to do at home and left the karaoke bar. Liam immediately followed me out. I walked ahead and he just trailed behind me. We didn't say a single word to each other the entire time. Until we were almost at my apartment complex, he couldn't hold back anymore and rushed towards me, saying with a choked voice, "Chloe, you remember everything, don't you?" "Remember what? Are you going crazy again, Liam?" I asked, feigning ignorance. "Yes, I am crazy. You're driving me crazy." He tried to get closer to hug me. I quickly took out a small stun gun that I had been carrying for protection and said, "Dare to take another step." He immediately raised his hands in the air, nervously saying, "Chloe, please, trust me. I won't hurt you again." Ha! You're giving yourself way too much credit. You really think you even could? To be honest with you, you just completely disgust me now. Disgust? Aren't the things you did disgusting too? Yeah, you're absolutely right. I won't bother you anymore, he said quietly. He then turned and walked away. That was the very last time we ever met. Because of my rebirth, I had access to a lot of valuable information about future events. After the college entrance exams, I strategically invested the money I had earned from the World Cup in various industries that I knew would be successful, including real estate, internet companies, stocks, and mutual funds. During my college years, I accumulated a level of wealth that I could have never even imagined before. It's true what they say. Money always seems to flow to those who don't really need it. I had never really believed in past lives or destiny before, but this unique experience made me feel like this money was just temporarily passing through me for a greater purpose. I eventually returned to my economically struggling hometown. There, I started several businesses and opened factories, creating much-needed jobs. I also invested $50 million to build a new school, bringing in more qualified teachers and fundamentally changing the educational opportunities in the area because of my actions. This, I realized, was the true meaning of my rebirth. Having foreknowledge of the future, how could I possibly be content with focusing on petty love and hate? I should strive to become a better, stronger person and use my knowledge and resources to make a real difference in the world. I learned about Liam again many years later. I was in the process of setting up a new round of motivational scholarships for students in my hometown, increasing the number of recipients to 100. Some of my old high school classmates had even come back to our hometown to work as teachers at the new school. One of them happened to mention Liam, saying they didn't know exactly when he had started experiencing mental health issues. Apparently, he had become obsessed with seeking answers from various deities about past and future lives and the concept of rebirth. Shockingly, Chloe was still with him, and she apparently believed that he would eventually come back to his senses and be with her again. Hearing this, I just smiled faintly to myself. After all, they were just irrelevant people in my life now. Learning to truly love and understand each other was their own personal lesson to learn, while I had my own important tasks and goals to pursue. I eventually found a meaningful and fulfilling relationship with someone I truly admired. We both dedicated a significant portion of our time and resources to various charitable causes. In this new life, I was finally content with who I had become. Liam's perspective. I had been overjoyed when I first realized that I had been reborn. In my previous life, I had ultimately left Chloe to try and save the person I had once loved the most, Sunny. Then, tragically, Chloe had died in that terrible fire at the mall. And even after all of that, I hadn't even ended up with Sunny. There had always been these inexplicable things constantly pushing us apart. She had always been incredibly insecure, constantly needing reassurance and proof of my love for her. Even after Chloe's death, she had kept asking me things like, does her death make her somehow more important now? She even said to me once, I could die too, you know. That statement had felt like a bomb going off inside me. I had completely lost control and slapped her across the face. She had immediately run out of my apartment crying. I had called her countless times, sent her numerous messages, but she had never replied. Then, just a month later, I had found out that she had a new boyfriend. I had confronted her about it, but in my anger and confusion, I had ended up getting hit by a car. As she held me in her arms, she had sobbed and said that she had only wanted to know if I still truly loved her. Love? We had been tangled up in this same question for nearly 10 years of our lives. Did she really still not know if I loved her? I had suddenly felt completely exhausted. I had tried to prove my love to her through countless actions. I had left important work meetings just to cook for her. I had driven over 100 miles just to get her favorite specific food, only to come home completely exhausted. I had even gotten into physical fights with other guys for her, ending up bloody and bruised, all in a desperate attempt to prove my love and devotion. I was truly tired of it all. My eyelids had felt heavier and heavier. At that moment, my thoughts had drifted to Chloe. She probably hated me with every fiber of her being. She certainly had in our last encounter, her eyes cold and filled with utter disgust. Unable to accept the reality of our broken relationship, I had desperately wanted to go back to how things used to be, to when we were happy. But it had felt like I was the only one still stuck in the past. We were never going back to those happier times. Until that night at the karaoke bar when she sang that song. I had suddenly felt a surge of hope again. She must have been reborn too. She remembered the events of our past life together. I could finally make things right with her. I had held on to that last shred of hope and had followed her home from the karaoke bar. Then I had heard those nightmare-inducing words come out of her mouth. She had said that she never wanted to see me again, that just seeing me would make her feel physically sick. She had even had a dream about me recently that was apparently super disgusting. In that dream, I was even grosser and more despicable than I had been in real life. I knew exactly what she meant. Was it just a dream, though? Could a simple dream really make her feel so disgusted and so repulsed by me? But what was real anymore? What was just a figment of my imagination? Thanks to some unexpected luck that I seemed to have carried over from my past life, I had managed to get into college after repeating my senior year of high school. It wasn't the same prestigious college that Chloe had gotten into, but I had deliberately chosen a school in the same city as hers. The city was huge, though, and we never actually ran into each other on campus. I had secretly gone to her school a few times just to try and catch a glimpse of her. She had really changed. She had become so much more dazzling and confident. She wasn't the same Chloe I remembered anymore. I had eventually stopped bothering to go see her. Using the fragmented memories from my past life, I had grasped onto any bits of useful information I could find and had managed to make some decent money through various investments. But I often felt like it was all just a dream. If I just woke up, my Chloe would be right there beside me. We would have a cozy little home together, and she would be gently pushing me to study for my exams. But it seemed like I could never truly wake up from this persistent dream. I had even started to seriously suspect that my past life was actually the real dream, and this current reality was just some bizarre nightmare. So, I had searched everywhere I could think of for some kind of answers or understanding. To my surprise, Sunny had decided to stick around with me through all of this. She had changed, too. She no longer seemed to constantly need me to prove how much I loved her. She just kept saying that she wanted me to go back to being the way I was before all of this happened. But who can really ever go back? To the past?